I'm Emily and I'm 32 years old. My family reunion at my small apartment was supposed to be perfect. For weeks, I had meticulously planned and cooked my mom's old recipes, intending to fill the place with happiness and affection. My sister Clara, her husband Nathan, and their children were all there. But something about Nathan seemed off. He kept avoiding conversations. When I checked my bank account the next morning, my heart stopped. $28,000 had vanished. Nathan just scoffed, saying, "We needed it more. How can you ever trust your family again after something like that? Where are you watching from? Like and subscribe to this channel and let's talk about it." I sat at my kitchen table, the lingering scent of last night's pot roast still in the air. The reunion had been everything I had hoped for. Clara's kids had made drawings on my refrigerator, and we had stayed up late reminiscing about Mom. I had felt whole again, as if we were children ourselves. But now, as I stared at my laptop, my hands trembled. The screen displayed my savings account. A mere $12 and some change. $28,000, every cent I had saved for my dream house, was gone. My chest tightened. Had to be a mistake. I refreshed the page and checked again. Nothing had changed. My mind raced back to the reunion. Had I missed any signs? Nathan's quick glances. His fidgeting when I mentioned my savings. I shook my head thinking, no way. He was family. I grabbed my phone and called the bank. The hold music droned on as I paced, my socks catching on the worn floorboards. When a representative finally answered, her voice was calm, unsettlingly so. She explained there had been a transfer to another account at 9:47 p.m. yesterday. Transferred, I said, gripping the counter. I didn't authorize anything. Where did it go? She hesitated. The receiving account isn't in your name. You'll need to file a dispute. Can you come to the branch? My stomach churned. The words "not in my name" echoed in my mind. I hung up, my breathing shallow. The reunion flashed before my eyes. Clara hugging me, Nathan toasting to family unity. Was it all a sham? I opened my texts and messaged Clara. "Hey, something is wrong with my account. Did you guys notice anything weird last night?" I stared at the screen, waiting. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Minutes passed. Finally, her reply came. "Sorry, Em. Nathan's been stressed. Maybe talk to him." Stressed? That was her only response. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I wanted to scream and demand answers, but I held back. Clara wouldn't hurt me. We had been through too much together. We had cried at Mom's funeral and promised to always have each other's backs. But Nathan's face kept intruding on my thoughts. His smirk when I had boasted about my savings. I grabbed my keys. I needed to see them, to look Clara in the eyes and know she hadn't betrayed me. As I locked my apartment, Mrs. Gale, my neighbor, poked her head out. Her curlers bobbed as she squinted at me. "Are you okay, Emily? I saw your brother-in-law poking around your desk last night. I thought it was a bit strange." My heart skipped a beat. Poking around? What do you mean? I shrugged. "He was by your laptop looking all sneaky. I just figured he was being nosy." I forced a smile, my mind reeling. "Thanks, Gail." My laptop. I had left it open during the reunion, trusting everyone. I got into my car, the air thick with the summer heat. The drive to Clara's house was a blur, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. I kept replaying the image of Nathan's hands near my desk. His quick steps away when I had walked in. Gail's words gnawed at me. Sneaky. I tried to dismiss the thought. He was Clara's husband, the father of her kids. He wouldn't do this. Would he? Clara's house came into view. A tidy ranch-style home with a tricycle on the lawn. I parked and sat for a moment, my pulse loud in my ears. I wanted to believe this was a simple glitch or a mix-up. But deep down, a cold knot was forming, whispering that the truth would be much worse. I stepped out, my sandals crunching on the gravel. Whatever was about to happen, I wasn't ready. Not yet. I knocked on Clara's door, my throat tight. The sun beat down and sweat pricked my neck. Inside I could hear the kids giggling and a TV blaring. Clara opened the door, her smile fading as soon as she saw my face. You didn't say you were coming." Her voice was soft, but her eyes darted away as if she were hiding something. I stepped inside, the air cool and smelling of fresh laundry. Nathan was lounging on the couch, a beer in his hand, barely glancing up. "We need to talk," I said, my voice more steady than I felt. Clara nodded, leading me to the kitchen. The counter was cluttered with new appliances, including a shiny blender I didn't recognize. My stomach twisted. "Clara, my savings are gone. $28,000. The bank said it was transferred last night during the reunion." Her hands froze on a dish towel. "That's awful," she mumbled, still avoiding my gaze. "Maybe it's a mistake." "It's not," I said, leaning closer and searching her face. "Nathan was near my laptop. Gail saw him. And you said he's stressed. What's going on?" My words came faster and sharper. Clara flinched, twisting the towel. Nathan's voice cut through from the living room. "What's with the interrogation, Em?" He strolled in, his grin lazy but cold. "Are you accusing us of something?" His tone was light, but his eyes were hard, daring me to challenge him. I swallowed, my pulse hammering. "Did you take my money, Nathan?" The question hung heavy in the air, the kitchen suddenly feeling too small. Clara stared at the floor, her silence more revealing than any words. Nathan snorted, leaning against the counter. "Take. Nah, borrowed. Maybe we needed it more." His words hit me like a slap, casual yet cruel. I blinked, expecting him to laugh and say it was a joke. He didn't. He just sipped his beer, smirking as if my life's work was insignificant. "Borrowed." My voice cracked. "You drained my account. That was for my house, my future." I turned to Clara, desperate for her to speak, to defend me. She just clutched the towel, her knuckles white. "We're drowning, Em," she whispered, barely audible. "The kids' school, the mortgage. We didn't mean to hurt you." Her words were soft, but they burned. Didn't mean to. They had planned this, using my trust as a tool. I stepped back, my hands trembling. "You knew." I stared at Clara, the sister who had held my hand at Mom's grave and promised we'd always be a team. Her silence was a clear answer. I looked around, noticing the new TV mounted on the wall and the kids' brand new sneakers by the door. My money, their upgrades. My chest ached as if something vital had been ripped out. Nathan shrugged, unfazed. "Family helps family, right? You'll make it back. Don't be so dramatic." My chest ached as if something vital had been ripped out. Nathan shrugged, unfazed. "Family helps family, right? You'll make it back. Don't be so dramatic." His mockery stung, each word a jab at my worth. I wanted to scream, to shake Clara until she looked at me, but my legs felt weak. "I need to go," I said, my voice hollow. I grabbed my purse, avoiding Nathan's gaze. Clara reached for my arm, but I pulled away. "Don't," I said, the word sharper than I intended. I walked out, the kids' laughter fading behind me. In my car I gripped the wheel, my vision blurring. A photo slipped from the visor, one of me and Clara at a county fair, our faces painted with stars. I shoved it into the glove box, my heart splitting. They had taken more than money. They had taken us. I drove home in a daze. Nathan's smirk was burned into my mind. My apartment felt too quiet, the warmth of the reunion replaced by a cold ache. I sank onto the couch, staring at my laptop. If I was going to fight this, I needed proof. I opened my bank's website, my fingers clumsy on the keys. The transaction details stared back at me. $28,000, transferred at 9:47 p.m., exactly when everyone was laughing over dessert. My stomach churned. Someone had used my laptop and my trust to rob me. I scrolled through the login history, my breath catching. There it was. Multiple attempts to access my account during the reunion. I flashed back to Nathan, asking to check his email on my laptop. I had handed it over, thinking nothing of it. He had sat at my desk, his back to the party, typing quickly. I had trusted him like I trusted Clara. The betrayal sank deeper, a knife twisting in my gut. I needed to know more. I called the bank again, my voice shaking but firm. The representative confirmed the transfer went to an account in Nathan's name. "You'll need to file a police report for fraud," she said. Fraud? The word felt foreign, too big for family. I hung up, my hands clammy. Could I do this? Turn them in? Clara's face flashed in my mind. Her whispered excuse about their struggles. I wanted to believe she had been coerced, but her silence in that kitchen told a different story. The next day at work I couldn't focus. The diner's clatter faded as I replayed Nathan's words. Family helps family. My coworker Amanda noticed my distraction, pulling me aside during a lull. You look like you haven't slept. What's wrong?" Her concern cracked something in me. I told her everything, the words spilling out. The reunion, the money, Nathan's confession, Clara's betrayal. Amanda's eyes widened, then narrowed. "That's theft, Emily. You need to go to the police. They can't get away with this." I nodded, but my heart sank. The police meant tearing my family apart. Clara's kids, my niece and nephew, flashed in my mind. Would they hate me? I thanked Amanda and promised to think about it, but doubt gnawed at me. I needed someone else, someone who knew us. I called my dad, Henry, even though we hadn't spoken much since Mom died. He had always favored Clara, but maybe he would see my side. His voice was gruff when he answered. "What's this about, Emily?" I explained, keeping my tone even despite my shaking hands. I told him about the transfer, Nathan's admission, and Clara's silence. I waited for his outrage, his support. Instead he sighed. "Clara's got a family to feed. They're struggling. You're single, no kids. You'll bounce back. Let it go." His words hit me like a punch. Let it go. My savings, my dream, my trust, all stolen. And he wanted me to shrug it off. "Dad, they took everything," I said, my voice breaking. "They used me." "They're your family," he snapped. "You don't turn on blood. Clara needs help, not your accusations." He hung up, leaving me staring at my phone, my anger boiling. He hadn't even asked how I was. I was alone in this, my own father choosing Clara's side without a second thought. The unfairness of it choked me, my eyes burning. They had all turned their backs, and I was the one left to pick up the pieces. I sat in my car outside the diner, Dad's words echoing like a drum in my skull. My fingers gripped the steering wheel, knuckles pale. The world felt smaller, sharper, as if every corner held a new betrayal. I wanted to drive to Clara's, to bang on her door and demand she face me, but my body wouldn't move. Instead, I found myself back at her house the next evening, uninvited, my resolve a fragile thread. I needed answers, even if they hurt more. Their street was quiet, the dusk settling in soft pinks. But Clara's yard buzzed with noise. Laughter spilled from the backyard. I parked and stepped out, my sneakers silent on the pavement. The smell of grilled burgers hit me and I froze. "Barbecue? No." I rounded the house, staying in the shadows. Nathan stood by a shiny new grill, flipping steaks, his laugh loud and careless. Clara passed out sodas, her smile tight but present. Their friends were sprawled on lawn chairs, kids chasing each other with water guns. My eyes locked on a new patio set, sleek and expensive, gleaming under string lights. My money, my future, their party. I stepped forward, my heart pounding so loud I thought they would hear me. Nathan spotted me first, his grin faltering for a split second before he waved me over, all charm. "Emily, join us. Grab a plate." His voice was too bright, as if he hadn't ripped my life apart. I ignored him, my gaze fixed on Clara. She froze, a can of soda slipping from her hand, fizzing on the grass. "Really?" I said, my voice low but cutting through the chatter. "You're throwing a party with my money." The words trembled, but I didn't care who heard. The backyard went quiet, eyes turning to me. Clara's face paled, her hands twisting together. Nathan laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Come on, don't make a scene. Just a barbecue. You're blowing this out of proportion. He flipped a burger, casual as if my pain were a joke. I felt the stares, the weight of judgment from strangers who didn't know me. I turned to Clara, willing her to speak. Say something, I said, my voice breaking. You let him do this. You let him take everything. She opened her mouth, then closed it, her eyes darting to Nathan. The silence was worse than any lie. Rachel, Clara's friend from church, stepped forward, her arms crossed. Emily, you need to calm down. They're struggling. You don't have kids, a mortgage. You wouldn't understand. Her tone dripped with pity, but her eyes were cold, as if I were the outsider. I remembered her from years ago, how she had snapped at me over a borrowed dress. Her grudge was apparently still alive. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others whispering. I was the villain now, the selfish sister who couldn't let go. Struggling, I said, my voice rising. They bought a new TV, new furniture, this grill. That's my savings. My hand shook. And I hated how small I felt, how their stares stripped me bare. Nathan smirked, tossing another burger onto a bun. You got no proof, Em. Maybe check your math. I wanted to scream, to upend the table, to make them feel the hole they had carved in me. But Clara's kids ran by, their laughter piercing, and I faltered. They didn't know. They shouldn't have to pay for this. I turned to leave, my chest tight, when Rachel called out, You're embarrassing yourself, Emily. Go home. The words landed like stones, and the crowd's soft chuckles followed me to my car. I slid into the driver's seat, my hands fumbling with the keys. The photo of me and Clara was still in the glove box, but I couldn't look at it. Instead, I found a letter tucked in my purse. One Mom had written me before she passed. Stand tall, Emily. You're stronger than you know. I clutched it, tears spilling. But the strength she saw in me felt out of reach. They had taken my money, my family, my dignity, and I was drowning in their lies. I couldn't let it go. Not after the barbecue, not after Dad's dismissal, not after Rachel's smug judgment. My apartment felt like a cage, the walls closing in with every memory of Clara's silence. I needed proof, something solid to make them see what they had done. I called Mrs. Gale, my voice tight but determined. She answered on the first ring, her usual chatter replaced by a knowing tone. Emily, I've been thinking about that night. Nathan was up to something. I'm sure of it. What did you see? I asked, pacing my living room, the carpet worn under my steps. Gale's voice dropped as if she were sharing a secret. He was by your desk holding your laptop bag. Said it was his, but his hands were shaking. I didn't push it, but it stuck with me. Her words lit a spark in me, a tiny thread of hope. If I could prove Nathan used my laptop, I could fight this. I sat at my desk, the same one Nathan had lingered near, and opened my laptop. My fingers hesitated over the keys, my heart thumping. I checked the browser history, scrolling past my usual sites. There, buried in the logs, were several login attempts to my bank account, time-stamped during the reunion. My breath caught. He had done it right under my nose while I was slicing cake and pouring wine. The violation hit me like a wave. My trust was shredded all over again. I called the bank, my voice steadier now. The representative walked me through filing a fraud dispute, confirming the transfer could be reversed with evidence. Get a police report, she urged. I hung up, my mind racing. Police. The word felt final, like crossing a line I couldn't uncross. But Nathan's smirk, Clara's averted eyes, and Dad's cold words pushed me forward. I wasn't going to let them bury this. Dad had invited us to dinner at his house, a rare attempt to keep the peace. I almost didn't go, but I needed to see Nathan's face, to know if he would flinch when I called him out. I dressed carefully, a simple sweater and jeans, but my hands shook as I zipped my boots. My purse held printouts of the browser history and the bank's transfer details. My ammunition. I drove to Dad's, the city lights blurring past, my stomach knotted with dread and resolve. Dad's house smelled of roast chicken and coffee. The table was set with Mom's old china. Clara was there, her kids coloring in the corner, her smile forced. Nathan slouched in a chair, his new watch glinting under the chandelier. He raised a glass, all charm. "To family," he said, his eyes sliding past me. I clenched my fork, the metal cold in my palm. Dad chatted about his garden, oblivious to the tension, but Clara barely spoke, her gaze fixed on her plate. After dessert, I cleared my throat, my heart pounding. "I need to say something." The room stilled, forks paused. Nathan's smile tightened, but he leaned back casually. I pulled the printouts from my purse, my hand steady despite the tremor inside. "Nathan, you used my laptop to transfer my savings. Have the logs. The bank's investigating. You took $28,000. My voice was calm, but each word felt like a stone dropped into still water. Nathan's laugh was sharp and cutting. "You're reaching him. Logs. Those could mean anything." He glanced at Dad, playing the victim. "She's been stressed, you know." Dad frowned, his eyes narrowing at me, but I didn't look away from Nathan. Clara's fork clattered to her plate, her face pale. Please," she whispered, barely audible. "Not here. Not here," I said, my voice rising, the room shrinking. "You let him steal from me, Clara. You stood there and said nothing." My eyes burned, but I held Nathan's gaze, daring him to lie again. He smirked, unfazed. And that's when it hit me. He thought he had won. He thought I would back down like always. My hands trembled, the printouts creasing in my grip. I wasn't done yet. The air in Dad's dining room thickened, the chandelier's glow casting sharp shadows. Nathan's smirk didn't waver, his fingers drumming on the table as if he were bored. "You're making a fool of yourself, Emily," he said, his voice dripping with mock pity. "No one's buying this detective act." He leaned forward, eyes glinting. "Maybe you sent that money yourself. Got a little forgetful, huh?" His words were a blade, slicing through the last of my composure. I stood up, my chair scraping the floor, the printouts trembling in my hand. "You're lying," I said, my voice loud now, raw. "You stole from me, Nathan. You sat in my home, ate my food, and took everything I worked for." My gaze swept to Dad, pleading for him to see the truth. His face was stone, his jaw tight. "Emily, sit down," he said, his tone clipped. "You're out of line. Out of line." The words burned, each one a betrayal. I turned to Clara, her kids now peeking from the hallway, their crayons forgotten. "Clara, tell them," I said, my voice cracking. "You know what he did. You admitted it." She shrank back, her hands clutching her napkin like a lifeline. "I'm sorry, Em," she whispered, tears spilling. "I can't fix this. Can't fix it." My laugh was bitter, jagged. "You watched him do it. You let him." The room spun, the faces blurring. Dad's disapproval, Nathan's amusement, Clara's guilt. I felt exposed, as if my pain were a spectacle. Nathan stood, towering over the table. "You're hysterical," he said, loud enough for the kids to hear. "Go cool off before you scare the little ones." Hysterical. The word echoed, stripping me bare. I looked at Dad, waiting for him to defend me, to call Nathan out. He folded his arms, his silence louder than any shout. "You're causing a scene," he said. "This isn't how we handle things." My throat closed, my eyes stinging. My own father was choosing Nathan over me, just as he had always chosen Clara. I grabbed my purse, my hands shaking so hard the strap slipped. "Then you won't mind what's coming next," I said, my voice a low tremble. I stepped toward the door, Nathan's chuckle chasing me. "Good luck with that," he called, his voice smug. Clara sobbed a soft, broken sound, but I didn't look back. I reached for the doorknob, my heart pounding when a loud bang shook the house. The front door burst open, and footsteps thudded in the hall. Voices shouted, "This is official. Please. Nathan Carter, we need to speak with you." My knees buckled, my purse slipping to the floor. Amanda had done this, hadn't she? She had called them, set this in motion. The room erupted. Clara's cries, Nathan's protests, Dad's angry questions. Officers stepped into the dining room, their badges glinting, their faces stern. "We're investigating a fraudulent transfer," one said, his eyes locking on Nathan. "You're coming with us." Nathan's smirk vanished, his face paling. Clara clutched her kids, her sobs louder now, begging me with her eyes to stop this. I stood frozen, my chest heaving, the weight of their betrayal crashing over me. The police were here. The truth was out, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like the end of everything. My family, my hope, my strength. I sank against the wall, my vision blurring, the chaos swallowing me whole. The police escorted Nathan out, his wrists cuffed, his face a mask of defiance. Clara's sobs echoed behind me, her kids clinging to her, their eyes wide with confusion. Dad's voice boomed, demanding answers, but I couldn't stay. I slipped out of his house, my purse clutched tight, the night air cold against my skin. My legs trembled as I reached my car, the chaos of the dining room still ringing in my ears. Amanda's call to the police had changed everything, but the weight of it pressed on my chest. This wasn't over. I drove home, the city lights streaking past like tears. My apartment was dark, the silence heavy. I sank onto my bed, staring at the ceiling, Clara's pleas replaying in my mind. Part of me wanted to call her, to take it all back, to spare her kids the fallout. But Nathan's smirk, Dad's dismissal, and the empty bank account fueled a fire I hadn't felt before. I wasn't the one who broke this family. They were. The next morning I called the police station, my voice steady despite the knot in my stomach. The officer confirmed they needed my statement and any evidence I had. I gathered my laptop, the browser history printouts, and the bank's transfer records. Each document was a piece of my fight. My hands shook as I stacked them, but I didn't stop. This was my stand, my way of clawing back what they had taken. I met with a lawyer named Karen at a small office downtown, its walls lined with books and faded certificates. She was older, her eyes sharp but kind, her questions direct. "Emily, this is a strong case," she said, flipping through my papers. "The evidence is solid, but prosecuting your brother-in-law will have ripple effects. Your sister, her kids, your dad, they'll feel it. Are you ready for that?" Her words landed heavily, stirring the guilt I had tried to bury. Clara's kids didn't deserve this, but neither did I. I leaned forward, my hands clasped tight. "I've lost everything," I said, my voice low but firm. "My savings, my trust, my family. If I don't fight now, what do I have left?" Karen nodded, a flicker of respect in her eyes. She outlined the process, filing charges, gathering witness statements, and preparing for a hearing. It felt daunting, but her confidence steadied me. I wasn't alone in this anymore. Back home, I stood at my kitchen counter, staring at a blank notebook. I needed to clear my head to make sense of this. I started writing, not to anyone, just to the memory of Mom. "I'm scared," I wrote, my pen scratching the paper. "But I'm done letting them walk over me. You taught me to stand up, and I'm trying." The words flowed, raw and unfiltered. Each one was a step toward reclaiming my voice. I sealed the letter, tucking it into a drawer, a quiet promise to myself. I called Clara, my heart pounding as the phone rang. She answered, her voice sounding like she had been crying. Why are you doing this?" she asked, her words sharp with pain. "You're ruining us." I gripped the phone, my resolve wavering. But then I saw Nathan's new watch, the barbecue, the lies. "You ruined us," I said, my voice calm but unyielding. "I'm just taking back what's mine." I hung up before she could respond, my hands trembling but my heart steady. For the first time I felt the stirrings of my own strength, fragile but growing. I stood in the courthouse hallway, the air thick with the smell of polished wood and coffee. My palms were damp, but I clutched my folder of evidence like a shield. The preliminary hearing was today, and I had spent the night rehearsing my words, each one a brick in the wall I was building to protect myself. Clara hadn't called since our last talk. Her silence was a fresh cut. But I pushed it aside. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about me, about standing up for what was right. Inside the courtroom, the judge's bench loomed, its dark wood stark against the pale walls. Nathan sat with his lawyer. His posture relaxed as if this were just a minor inconvenience. He glanced at me, his eyes narrowing, then flashed a smile that didn't reach them. "You're wasting everyone's time, Em," he mouthed, his lips barely moving. My stomach twisted, but I straightened my shoulders, refusing to shrink. The judge called my name, and I took the stand, my boots echoing on the floor. The room was quiet, the air heavy with expectation. I swore to tell the truth, my voice steady despite the pulse hammering in my throat. The prosecutor asked me to recount the night of the reunion, and I did, my words clear and deliberate. I described Nathan's request to use my laptop, the transfer I discovered, and the bank's confirmation. I laid out the browser logs and the timestamps, each fact a step toward justice. Nathan's lawyer stood, his tie too bright for the room's gravity. "Ms. Thompson," he said, pacing slowly, "are you suggesting my client stole from you? Or perhaps you gave him the money as a gift? Family does that, don't they?" His words were a trap, meant to twist my truth. I saw Nathan lean back, smirking as if he had already won. My hands clenched, but I met the lawyer's gaze. "No," I said, my voice firm, cutting through the room. "I didn't give him anything. He took it. He used my trust to steal $28,000. The words felt like a release, each one peeling away the shame I had carried. The lawyer pressed, suggesting I had been careless, but I didn't waver. I had spent too long doubting myself to falter now. Amanda took the stand next, her voice steady as she described Nathan's odd behavior at the reunion. His lingering by my desk. Mrs. Gale followed, her curlers traded for a neat bun. Her memory sharp as she recounted Nathan's nervous fidgeting with my laptop bag. Their words bolstered mine, a chorus of truth against Nathan's lies. I watched his smirk fade, his fingers tapping restlessly on the table. After the hearing, I stepped outside, the autumn air sharp against my face. My phone buzzed. A message from my cousin Lucas, someone I hadn't seen in years. "Heard what's going on," he wrote. "I'm here if you need me." His words, simple but genuine, warmed a corner of my heart I thought was frozen. I tucked my phone away and opened my laptop in a nearby coffee shop. The clatter of cups grounded me. I started a blog, my fingers flying over the keys as I poured out my story. The reunion, the theft, the fight. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but it felt like reclaiming my voice, like shouting into the void and daring it to answer. By evening, comments trickled in, strangers sharing their own stories of betrayal. Their words were a lifeline I hadn't known I needed. I sat back, my coffee cold, and felt a shift inside me, a quiet strength taking root. I closed my laptop, my eyes catching the faint reflection of my face in the screen. I didn't look away. For the first time, I saw someone who wasn't just a victim. I saw me standing tall, ready to keep fighting. I slipped my laptop into my bag, the weight of it solid in my hands, and stepped into the night, my steps sure. The courthouse steps felt colder than they should have, the late fall wind biting through my scarf. My testimony, Amanda's, Gail's, it had made a difference. Something had tipped the scales. Nathan's case was moving forward. Charges of fraud and theft were now official. I walked to my car, the folder of evidence lighter in my hands. But my chest was heavy. I had fought for myself, but the cost was creeping in, sharp and unyielding. Clara's absence at the hearing lingered in my mind, a quiet wound I couldn't ignore. At home, I found a letter slipped under my door, the handwriting unmistakably Dad's. My stomach knotted as I tore it open. "You're tearing this family apart," he wrote, his words jagged on the page. "Clara's a wreck. The kids are scared. And for what? Your pride. Drop this, Emily, before you lose us all." I sank onto the couch, the letter crumpling in my fist. His anger wasn't new, but its rawness cut deeper than I had expected. He hadn't called, hadn't faced me, just left this note as if I wasn't worth more. I walked to the cemetery the next day, the grass brittle under my boots. Mom's headstone was smooth and cool under my fingers. I sat cross-legged, tracing her name, wishing she could tell me what to do. "I'm trying to be strong," I whispered, my voice swallowed by the wind. "But it hurts." The silence of her grave was kinder than Dad's words, but it didn't ease the ache. I left a single daisy, her favorite, and drove home, my resolve fraying at the edges. My phone buzzed as I parked, Clara's name flashing on the screen. I hesitated, then answered, bracing myself. Her voice was soft and broken. Please stop this," she said, her words thick with tears. "You're ruining us." Her plea was a punch. Her kids' faces flashed in my mind, their gap-toothed smiles, their drawings on my fridge. I gripped the steering wheel, my throat tight. "Clara, I love them," I said, my voice low. "But Nathan stole from me. I can't pretend he didn't." She went quiet, then spoke, her tone sharper. "You're so selfish. You don't know what it's like to lose everything." The line went dead, her words echoing in the car's stillness. Selfish. The accusation stung, twisting the guilt I tried to bury. I wanted to help her kids, to shield them, but not at the cost of my truth. I texted her back, my finger steady. "I'll support the kids always, but I'm not dropping this." I hit send, my heart racing, knowing she wouldn't reply. At the diner, Amanda pulled me aside during a slow shift, her eyes bright with purpose. "We're starting a fundraiser," she said, handing me a flyer. "For your legal fees. The whole crew's in." My jaw dropped, the paper trembling in my hands. Names I barely knew. Waitresses, cooks, even regular customers had chipped in. Their kindness was a lifeline, a reminder that I wasn't as alone as I felt. I hugged Amanda, my voice catching. "Thank you," I whispered, the words too small for what I felt. But as I drove home, Dad's letter and Clara's voice clawed at me. The fundraiser's warmth couldn't erase their rejection, their blame. I parked, staring at my apartment building, the lights flickering in the dusk. My fight was costing me my family, piece by piece, and the weight of it settled like frost in my bones. I stepped out, the air sharp, my heart caught in a silent, heavy pause, unsure what I would lose next. I sat in the courtroom, the wooden bench hard beneath me, the air stale with tension. The trial had begun, and Nathan's face was a mask of calm, his suit crisp as if he belonged here. My hands rested on my lap, the folder of evidence gone now, handed over to the prosecutor. I had done my part, laid bare the truth, but the room felt like it was holding its breath, waiting to judge me instead. The gallery was sparse, just a few strangers and Amanda, her nod a quiet anchor. I took the stand again, my voice steady as I recounted the betrayal, each word a stone I had carried too long. I described the reunion's warmth, Nathan's sly request for my laptop, and the transfer I discovered, the bank's confirmation. I laid out the browser logs and the timestamps, each fact a step toward justice. Nathan's lawyer stood, his tie too bright for the room's gravity. "Miss Thompson," he said, pacing slowly, "are you suggesting my client stole from you? Or perhaps you gave him the money as a gift? Family does that, don't they?" His words were a trap, meant to twist my truth. I saw Nathan lean back, smirking as if he had already won. My hands clenched, but I met the lawyer's gaze. "No," I said, my voice firm, cutting through the room. "I didn't give him anything. He took it. He used my trust to steal $28,000. The words felt like a release, each one peeling away the shame I had carried. The lawyer pressed, suggesting I had been careless, but I didn't waver. I had spent too long doubting myself to falter now. Amanda took the stand next, her voice steady as she described Nathan's odd behavior at the reunion, his lingering by my desk. Mrs. Gale followed, her curlers traded for a neat bun, her memory sharp as she recounted Nathan's nervous fidgeting with my laptop bag. Their words bolstered mine, a chorus of truth against Nathan's lies. I watched his smirk fade, his fingers tapping restlessly on the table.